The twin sons of Nethys cast their harsh light across the execution plaza, turning the crystalline ground into a mirror of fire and blood. Captain Marcus Steele crouched behind the marble pillars that surrounded the ancient arena, his weathered hands gripping the pulse rifle that had seen him through countless battles across the galaxy. But today felt different. Today he wasn't fighting for military objectives or territorial gains. Princess Zara Vextos stood defiant at the center of the Crimson Wheel, her silver skin gleaming like starlight against the brutal contraption designed for public torture. Chains that bound her wrists were forged from quantum steel. Unbreakable by conventional means, yet she held her head high with the grace of true royalty. Her people, the Vex Theory, possessed an ethereal beauty that had captivated Marcus from the moment he first saw her diplomatic vessel arrive at the neutral space station. The crowd of mixed species jeered and shouted for blood, their faces twisted. With the ugly excitement that came from watching the powerful fall, Marcus felt sick to his stomach. How had it come to this? Just 3 months ago, Zara had been leading peace negotiations between their worlds, her melodious voice speaking of hope and unity, while her violet eyes sparkled with intelligence and compassion. Now those same eyes blazed with defiance as the damned executioner approached. General Curvin was a mountain of a being, his reptilian hide scarred from decades of warfare, his massive claws designed for tearing flesh from bone. The crowd's roar grew deafening as he raised the ceremonial blade above his head, its edge crackling with energy that would slice through even Vex Theory resilience. Marcus remembered the last time he had spoken with Zara. It was in the gardens of the space station, where bioluminescent flowers created a canopy of soft light above their heads. She had been worried about the growing tensions between the hardliners and both their governments. Her delicate fingers nervously adjusting the flowing fabric of her ceremonial robes. "There are those who profit from war, Marcus," she had whispered, her voice carrying the musical quality of her native tongue. "They fear what peace might bring, what understanding between our peoples could accomplish." He had wanted to reach out then, to touch her hand and tell her that not all humans were driven by greed and prejudice. Some of them, like him, had learned to see beyond the differences in skin color and bone structure to the soul that burned bright within. But diplomatic protocol had held him back, and now he cursed himself for his restraint. The execution wheel began to turn with a grinding mechanical sound that echoed across the plaza. Each revolution brought Zara closer to the spinning blades that would end her life in the most painful way possible. The Nethian authorities had specifically chosen this method to send a message to any who might challenge their authority. They wanted her death to be a spectacle, a warning that would echo across the stars. Marcus checked his equipment one final time. The stealth field generator would give him perhaps 30 seconds of invisibility before its power cells drained. Plasma grenades would create enough chaos to cover his approach. His combat armor bore the scars of 100 battles, each mark a reminder of the times he had survived when others had not. But this wasn't about survival anymore. This was about something far more precious and dangerous than his own life. He watched Zara's silver hair flowing in the wind, catching the light like liquid mercury. He felt something shift inside his chest. It was more than duty, more than the respect he held for a fellow warrior. It was the recognition of a kindred spirit, someone whose courage matched his own. The wheel spun faster now, and General Corvin's laughter boomed across the plaza like thunder. Marcus took a deep breath, feeling the familiar calm that came before battle settle over him. He thought of Zara's smile, the way her eyes crinkled at the corners when she laughed at his terrible jokes during their brief diplomatic meetings. "Hold. Princess," he whispered to the wind, knowing she couldn't hear him but hoping somehow his determination would reach her across the distance. "I'm coming for you." The plasma grenade detonated in a brilliant flash of blue-white light, sending chunks of crystalline pavement flying like deadly projectiles through the crowd. Marcus burst from his concealment as the stealth field shimmered around him, rendering him nearly invisible to the panicking spectators. He had perhaps 20 seconds before the field collapsed and left him exposed to enemy fire. General Corvin roared in confusion as the explosion rocked the execution platform. His massive head swiveled back and forth, searching for the source of the attack, while his subordinates scrambled to maintain order among the screaming crowd. The ceremonial blade wavered in his grip as he tried to decide whether to complete the execution or deal with this new threat. Marcus sprinted across the plaza, his boots finding purchase on the smooth surface despite the chaos erupting around him. He could see Zara clearly now, her violet eyes wide with surprise, but not fear. Even bound to the wheel of torment, she maintained the composure of someone born to lead. Their gazes met for a brief moment. He saw recognition flash across her features. The stealth field flickered and died. Just as Marcus reached the base of the execution platform, General Corvin spotted him immediately, his reptilian features twisting into a snarl of rage. "Human," he bellowed, raising the energy blade high above his head. "Did you dare interfere with justice? Your justice is nothing but cruelty dressed in ceremony," Marcus replied, drawing his vibro sword in one smooth motion. The weapon hummed to life, its monomolecular edge capable of cutting through almost any material. "Let her go, Corvin, and we can settle this between warriors." The general's laugh was like grinding stone. "You think yourself a match for me, Softskin? I have killed 100 of your kind in single combat," lunged forward, with surprising speed for such a massive creature, the ceremonial blade crackling. As it swept toward Marcus's neck, Marcus rolled beneath the strike. Feeling the energy discharge singe the hair on the back of his head, he came up inside Corvin's guard, his vibrozord seeking the gap between the general's armor plates. The blade found flesh, drawing a line of dark blood across the reptilian's ribs, but the wound was shallow. "First blood to me," Marcus said, circling warily as Corvin clutched his side. Behind them, the execution wheel continued to turn, carrying Zara ever closer to the spinning death blades. He could hear her voice over the din of combat, speaking in her native tongue, and though he didn't understand the words, the tone was unmistakably one of encouragement. Corvin attacked again, this time with more caution but no less fury. Bladework was crude but powerful, each swing capable of cleaving a man in two. Marcus danced between the strikes, his smaller size and superior speed allowing him to stay just ahead of the deadly edge. But he couldn't keep this up forever, and time was running out for Zara. "You fight well for a human," Corvin admitted, breathing heavily as they circled each other, "but you cannot save her. Even if you kill me, my death will only seal her fate. The wheel will continue to turn." Marcus risked a glance at the control mechanism that operated the execution device. It was protected by a quantum lock that would take precious minutes to bypass, minutes he didn't have. There was another way, one that would require perfect timing and more luck than any reasonable person should expect. "Maybe I can't stop the wheel," he said, adjusting his grip on the vibro sword, "but I don't have to." He feinted left, drawing Corvin's attention, then dove right, toward the wheels. Support structure. His blade sliced through the primary stabilizer beam in a shower of sparks, causing the entire mechanism to shudder and slow. Corvin roared in fury, realizing too late what Marcus intended. The wheel lurched to one side as its gyroscopic balance failed. Marcus leaped upward, catching one of the spinning spokes with his free hand as it passed overhead. The centrifugal force nearly tore his arm from its socket, but he held on, allowing the momentum to carry him up to where Zara was chained. "Trust me," he shouted over the groaning of metal and the roar of the crowd. Her eyes met his, and in them he saw complete faith despite the madness of the situation. His vibrosword sliced through the quantum steel chains as if they were made of paper. The exotic matter construction no match for the weapon's monomolecular edge. Zara fell free, just as the wheel completed its death spiral and crashed into the plaza in an explosion of metal and crystal. Marcus caught her in his arms, feeling the warmth of her body against his chest as they tumbled clear of the wreckage. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath, and he was intensely aware of her heartbeat racing against his own. Then, reality crashed back in. Corvin was climbing out of the debris, his armor dented but his fury undiminished. Guard reinforcements were streaming into the plaza from all directions. They had perhaps minutes before being overwhelmed. "Can you run?" Marcus asked, helping Zara to her feet. Her silver skin was unmarked, despite her ordeal, though he could see exhaustion in her eyes. "I can do whatever is necessary," she replied, her voice carrying that musical quality he remembered. "But where can we go? They will hunt us across the galaxy." Marcus smiled grimly, checking his weapon's power levels. "I know a place, but first we have to get out of here alive." Sanctuary in the stars, the mountain cave was carved from living crystal, its walls pulsing with a soft bioluminescent glow that provided just enough light to navigate by. Marcus had discovered this sanctuary years ago during a reconnaissance mission, back when the war between their species was still a distant possibility rather than a brutal reality. Now, as he helped Zara settle onto the makeshift bedding he'd fashioned from emergency supplies, it felt like the last peaceful place in the galaxy. "Your wound needs attention," Zara said, her gentle fingers probing the gash across Marcus's shoulder, where a guard's plasma bolt had grazed him during their escape. Her touch sent unexpected warmth through his body, and he found himself studying the delicate patterns that traced across her silver skin like living artwork. "I've had worse," he replied, trying to ignore how her proximity made his heart race. "You should rest. We've been running for 3 days straight." She gave him a look that somehow managed to be both imperious and amused. "I am trained in healing arts, Captain Steele. Please remove your shirt so I can properly treat your injury." Marcus hesitated, suddenly self-conscious about the scars that mapped his torso, like a roadmap of past battles. But her expression brooked no argument, and he reluctantly stripped off the torn remains of his combat shirt. Zara's eyes widened slightly as she took in the evidence of his violent profession, her fingers tracing a particularly prominent mark that ran from his collarbone to just above his heart. "Corvin's claws," he explained, remembering the mission, where he'd earned that particular souvenir 3 years ago on the border world of Epsilon Prime. "You have fought him before?" she asked, beginning to clean his wound with water from their dwindling supplies. "Twice. Both times he walked away, and both times good people died, because I wasn't strong enough to stop him." Marcus winced as she applied some kind of healing compound that felt like liquid fire against his skin. "I should have killed him." In the arena, Zara's hands stilled in their work. "You risked everything to save me. Do not diminish that by dwelling on what you perceive as failure." Her voice carried a note of command that reminded him she was royalty, born to rule and accustomed to being obeyed. But there was something else there too, something softer and more personal. They worked in comfortable silence for a while, her skilled hands binding his wound with strips torn from her own robes. Marcus found himself studying her face in the crystal light, noting the way her violet eyes seemed to hold depths he could spend a lifetime exploring. When had this warrior princess, this diplomatic ally, become something more to him? "Tell me about your world," he said, needing to break the tension that seemed to crackle in the air between them. "Before the war, before all this madness?" Zara's expression grew wistful as she settled back against the crystal wall. "Was a place of great beauty. Cities that grew rather than were built, reaching toward the stars like living trees. My people valued art and music above conquest, creation over destruction." She paused, and Marcus saw tears gathering in her eyes. "Now those cities burn while their children learn to hate instead of love. The war won't last forever," he said, moving closer without quite realizing it. "Someday there will be peace again. Will there?" she asked, and suddenly she was very close, close enough that he could see the flecks of silver in her violet irises. "Can there ever truly be peace between our kinds when so much blood has been spilled?" Marcus reached out, his calloused fingers brushing away a tear that had escaped to trace a silver line down her cheek. "I have to believe there can be. Otherwise, what are we fighting for?" The distance between them seemed to evaporate like morning mist. He could feel her breath on his face, could see his own reflection in her eyes. When she leaned forward, it seemed like the most natural thing in the world to meet her halfway. Their lips touched in a kiss that was gentle at first, then more urgent as days of shared danger and growing attraction finally found expression when they broke apart. Both were breathing hard. Zara's hand rested against his chest, directly over his heart, and Marcus could feel the rapid rhythm of his pulse beneath her palm. "This is dangerous," she whispered, though she made no move to pull away. "I am promised to another betrothed since childhood to seal an alliance between our houses." "I know," Marcus replied, though the knowledge felt like a blade between his ribs. "Captain Drex of the Royal Guard. I've read the intelligence reports." Her eyes widened in surprise. "You know of him?" "I know he's a good soldier and a loyal servant of your people. I know your marriage would bring stability to a region that desperately needs it." Marcus's hand covered hers where it rested against his chest. "I also know that in here, in this moment, none of that matters." Zara's smile was radiant and heartbreaking at the same time. "You're a fool, Marcus Steele, a beautiful, brave fool, who has turned my carefully ordered world upside down." "Then we're both fools," he replied, pulling her closer. "Because I haven't been able to think clearly since the moment I saw you standing before that execution wheel." They held each other in the crystal light, two souls from different worlds finding solace in each other's arms.
Outside,
The twin suns of Nethys were setting, painting the sky in shades of crimson and gold. Tomorrow would bring new dangers, new choices that would test their resolve and their hearts. But for now, in this moment, stolen from time itself, they had each other. Marcus felt Zara's breathing gradually slow as exhaustion finally claimed her. She dozed against his shoulder, her silver hair spreading across his chest like liquid starlight. He remained awake, keeping watch and trying not to think about what the future might hold for two people, whose love could reshape the galaxy or destroy them both. The Heart's revelation dawn brought the sound of approaching engines, their deep rumble echoing off the crystal walls of their sanctuary like distant thunder. Marcus was on his feet in an instant, his vibrasword in hand and his body positioned protectively between Zara and the cave entrance. She woke with the fluid grace of a natural warrior, her own weapon appearing in her palm with liquid smoothness. "3 ships," Marcus said, his enhanced hearing picking out the subtle differences. "In engine signatures? Fast attack craft, probably a full squad." He moved to the observation alcove that overlooked the valley approach. "They're flying Vex 3 colors." Zara joined him at the crystal window, her face pale in the morning light. "It has to be Drex. He would never stop searching once he learned of my capture." Her voice carried a mixture of relief and dread that made Marcus's chest tighten with unexpected jealousy. "Your fiancé seems persistent," he said, trying to keep his tone neutral and failing completely. "He is honor-bound to protect me," Zara replied, but Marcus didn't miss the way her eyes avoided his. "It is his duty, nothing more." The ship settled into the valley with military precision, their landing struts extending to grip the rocky ground. Marcus watched through his scope as figures in gleaming armor emerged from the lead craft. Even at this distance, he could see the commanding presence of the man who led them. The way the others deferred to his authority with practiced ease, Captain Drex was everything Marcus had expected and more. Tall, even by Vex 3 standards, his silver skin bore the intricate battle scars that marked him as a veteran warrior. His armor was a masterwork of both form and function, each plate perfectly fitted to enhance his natural agility while providing maximum protection. When he removed his helmet, Marcus saw a face that could have been carved by the gods themselves, all sharp angles and noble bearing. "He looks like he stepped out of a recruiting poster," Marcus muttered, lowering his scope. "Drex has always been impressive," Zara said quietly. "My father chose well when he arranged our betrothal. He is everything a princess should want in a husband." "But not what you want," Marcus said, reading the subtle tension in her voice. Before she could answer, a voice echoed up from the valley below, amplified by military communications equipment. "Princess Zara, I know you are here. Come down so we may speak without bloodshed." Zara closed her eyes, and Marcus could see the internal struggle playing out across her features. Duty warred with desire, obligation with the freedom she had found in his arms. When she opened her eyes again, the decision was made. "I have to go to him," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "He risks his life by being here, and my people need their princess to return home." Marcus felt something cold and heavy settle in his stomach. "What about us? What about what we found here?" She turned to face him fully, and he saw his own pain reflected in her violet eyes. "What we have is beautiful, Marcus, but it is also impossible. I cannot abandon my responsibilities for love, no matter how deeply I feel it. So that's it? His voice rougher than he intended. We just pretend none of this happened? Remember it, she said, reaching up to cup his face with her palm. We keep it safe in our hearts, a perfect moment that no war can touch. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the cave system. Drex had found their trail and was coming. Up the hidden path. Marcus could hear the soft clink of armor and weapons, the whispered communications of a well-trained team moving through hostile territory. Stand down, human. Drex's voice rang out as he appeared at the cave entrance, his energy rifle trained. On Marcus's chest, step away from the princess. Marcus raised his hands but didn't move from Zara's side. Up close, Drex was even more impressive, his presence filling the cave like a force of nature. But Marcus had faced intimidating opponents before, and he refused to be cowed. She's not your prisoner, Captain, Marcus said evenly. She's free. To make her own choices? Drex's eyes narrowed, and Marcus saw the moment when understanding dawned. The Vexari warrior's gaze flicked between them, taking in their closeness. The way Zar's hand rested on Marcus's arm, the subtle intimacy that spoke of more than mere alliance. I see, Drex said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. The human has seduced you with his crude advances, no matter. Such foolishness can be forgotten once we return home. Drex, please, Zara began. But the captain cut her off with a sharp gesture. You will return with me now, princess? Your father grows desperate with worry, and your people need you. His rifle never wavered from Marcus's center of mass. For this one, he will face judgment for his crimes against the state. What crimes? Marcus demanded. Saving her life, protecting her from execution. Kidnapping a member of the royal family? Drex replied coldly, interfering with legal proceedings. Assault on a military officer. He smiled without warmth. The list is quite extensive. Zara stepped forward, placing herself between the two men. Enough. I will not have you threaten the man who saved my life. She turned to Marcus, her eyes bright with unshed tears. But Drex is right about one thing. My people need me, and I cannot abandon them. Then I'll come with you, Marcus, I said immediately. Let me stand trial if that's what it takes. But don't ask me to just walk away. It's impossible, Drex snapped. No human will set foot on Vexthos while I draw breath. Then we have a problem, Marcus said, his hand drifting toward his weapon. Because I'm not letting her go back to a world that would see her executed for seeking peace. The tension in the cave stretched tight as a bowstring. 3 warriors balanced on the knife's edge of violence. Outside, the twin suns climbed higher, their light streaming through the crystal walls to paint everything in shades of amber and gold. In that golden light, Marcus saw something shift in Zara's expression, a decision forming that would change everything. United we stand, the ancient communications array crackled to life as Zara's fingers danced across the holographic interface with practiced ease. For 3 days she had been broadcasting her message across the galaxy, reaching out to resistance. Cells, military units, and civilian populations on both sides of the war. Her words carried the weight of royal authority and the passion of someone who had seen too much death in the name of pride and politics. People of all worlds, her voice echoed through the crystal chamber that served as their hidden base. I speak to you not as Princess of Vexthos, but as someone who has witnessed the price of our hatred. Marcus stood behind her, his hand resting supportively on her shoulder while Drex maintained his vigil at the chamber entrance, still struggling with his divided loyalties. The response had been overwhelming. Ship after ship had answered her call, arriving through hyperspace jumps that lit up the outer system like fireworks. Human vessels flew in formation with Vexthari fighters, their crews united by a common cause that transcended species barriers. Even some of Corvin's own forces had defected, bringing valuable intelligence about the tyrant's defenses. The orbital platforms are heavily shielded, reported Commander Hayes, Marcus's former superior who had arrived with a full battle group. But if we can get close enough, our combined firepower should be sufficient to breach them. The ground assault will be the real challenge, added Captain Thane. one of Drex's trusted lieutenants who had thrown his lot in with the rebellion. Corvin has transformed the capital into a fortress, and he won't hesitate to use civilian shields. Marcus studied the tactical displays with the eye of a veteran warrior. The plan was audacious, perhaps even suicidal, but it was their only chance to end the tyranny that had consumed both their worlds. "We hit them fast and hard," he said, his finger tracing attack vectors on the hologram. "Multiple strike teams. Coordinated strikes on key infrastructure." "And if we fail?" Drex asked, speaking for the first time in hours. His relationship with Marcus remained tense, but professional respect had begun to override personal animosity. "Then we die free," Zara replied, her voice carrying the steel that had sustained her through torture and imprisonment. "Better that than live as slaves to fear and hatred." The final briefing took place in the ship's hangar bay, with representatives from dozens of worlds gathered around the tactical display. Marcus felt the weight of history pressing down on them as he looked out at the assembled forces. Humans in Vexery, Nethians, and a dozen other species, all united by a simple belief that peace was worth fighting for. "This is it," he announced, his voice carrying across the vast space. "In 6 hours, we begin the assault on Nethius Prime. Some of us won't be coming back, but those who do will carry word of this day to every corner of the galaxy." As the crowd dispersed to their ships and battle stations, Zara approached him with something close to reverence in her eyes. "Whatever happens today, I want you to know that you gave me something I thought I'd lost forever." "What's that?" Marcus asked, though he thought he already knew the answer. "Hope," she replied, rising on her toes to kiss him softly. "And love that transcends everything our peoples have built between us." The battle for Nethius Prime began at dawn. With coordinated strikes on the orbital defense platforms that had kept the planet locked in Corvan's iron grip, Marcus led the first wave of assault shuttles through the defensive fire, his pilot skills honed by years of combat flying. Beside him, Zara's ship danced through the flak bursts like a silver ghost, her natural agility enhanced by systems that responded to her bioelectric field. The ground assault was brutal and swift. Marcus fought his way through the streets of the capital, his vibro sword cutting through enemy lines while above him. The mixed fleet poured fire into Corvin's stronghold. When he finally reached the tyrant's throne room, he found the general waiting for him with the ceremonial blade that had nearly claimed Zara's life. "So the human comes for his final lesson in pain," Corvin growled, raising the energy weapon. Above his scaled head, no, Marcus replied, drawing his own blade. "Today, I come for justice." The final duel was everything their previous encounters had promised, but never delivered. Corvin fought with the fury of desperation, his massive frame moving with surprising grace as he sought to end the rebellion with a single decisive blow. But Marcus had something the general lacked. He was fighting for love, for hope, for a future where children of all species could grow up without fear. When Corvin finally fell, his life bleeding out onto the crystal floor of his palace, the war died with him. Across the planet, his remaining forces laid down their arms as news of his death spread through their communication networks. The age of tyranny was over. Later, as the twin suns set over a world finally at peace, Marcus found Zara standing on the palace balcony, looking out at the celebrations in the streets below. Ships from 100 worlds filled the sky, their crews mingling freely as they shared stories and dreams of the future. "So what happens now?" he asked, slipping his arms around her waist from behind.
Now
we build something better," she replied, leaning back against his chest. "A galaxy where love matters more than politics, where understanding trumps fear." In the distance, Drex was coordinating with the new provisional government, its natural leadership qualities helping to ease the transition from war to peace. He had found his own path to honor, one that didn't require possessing what could never truly be owned. "I love you," Marcus whispered against Zara's ear, the words carrying the weight of everything they had endured together. "And I love you," she replied, turning in his arms to face him, across species, across worlds, across all the vast emptiness between the stars. Their kiss was witnessed by 2 suns and 1,000 ships, a promise that some things were indeed stronger than the forces that sought to divide them. In the years that followed, their love would become legend, inspiring countless others to look beyond the surface to the heart that beat beneath. But in that moment, they were simply two souls who had found each other in the darkness and chosen to kindle a light that would burn for all time. The galaxy was vast, filled with wonders and terrors beyond imagination. But love, they had learned, was the greatest adventure of all. The end.